essentially, here we are, Baecula, the Romans started things off with a cav attack, trying to knock the Numidians out with some early hits. They routed one of their own units, chased some of the Numidians back, didn't really get the kind of grip that they wanted, but those things are really slippery and hard to get. Now, don't get me, I didn't make the same mistake again. I didn't forget good old Repel here, but all he did was move forward. So he can do some line commands, presumably, and get some of the Carthaginians into place. He's not good at rallying troops. He's not the guy doing that. Anyway, we'll continue on with, I guess, those wonderful leaders. We have the Carthaginian leader back here with the cav, who will probably try to rally his few lancers as well. Well, we're seeing the Romans pursuing up the center, and really beginning to destroy some of the Carthaginian forces completely that were there. Definitely making some serious inroads here. Now, Carthage is already at 47 casualties. Here they're taking 20 more. They're going to have a hard job getting stuff off the map without losing it first. I don't remember what they have to get off the map, but they're definitely being pressed hard here, and the Roman army is, able to handle a bunch of routed Carthaginians pretty well. There's a sort of a time limit on the Carthaginians here because they can't lose 100, but they've got to get one off the map in order to win. It's oh jeez. Okay, so the RP of volunteer, so they have to get at least as many as have been routed, plus whatever's in the camp, off the map. That's, and have nothing on the board outside the camp. That's kind of a painful calculation. We'll see what it comes out of it. Alright, so here's our ending position for the turn, with the Carthaginians beginning to actually leave the map. Now, Hasdrubal didn't get the momentum he needed to start rallying, and we're seeing some of the skirmishers flying off as well. Some of the other leaders didn't necessarily, weren't very successful with their rallying. We see a pile of dead. I wanted to hold off, but it's hard to do that. Sometimes, what you desire to do in a game is not exactly what you end up actually doing while you're playing. And this wasn't even a matter of walking away and forgetting what I intended. It's just, even when I'm playing in an opposed game, I'll often forget, oh yeah, why they were there. Whoops. I shouldn't have committed them. They were presenting some threat that might have developed nicely, but now I've used them. And I find myself doing that all too often. This is kind of a difficulty that I have with games without written orders. One of the things I love about written orders is you want something to do something, you got to go through some extra effort for it. You have to express what you want it to do. And when I don't have written orders, well, it's all too often that something that a commander would seldom have happen, which is, oh look, my troops just wandered off there for no reason. Sure, it happens. It happened at Gettysburg, for example. But in general, soldiers and commands tended to not do anything when there's no great opportunity and no orders, which is why I really love the CWB systems as compared to this, because here I find myself moving units that I didn't mean to move, and that's a really ahistorical situation. Anyway, I don't know if that was the case here, sort of, but just one of them rants that I get into. Romans have pretty much cleared everything behind here. There's a few Carthaginian units here, a little bit of column there that they got to worry about. They got to. There's a danger. Scipio can't do it, I don't think. Well, he could engage them. He could fire off his bonus, he got trumped as well and wasn't able to move up into position. He moved his velites up, but there's a situation there where he can launch an attack on these. We've got the first couple Carthaginians off the board. Comes out to 28 points because they're double-sized for phalanxes, and 10, 20, 24, 30, 36, 47 casualties there. That puts them to 98. Well, I'd say this is over. Carthage isn't going to get out of here alive. And 14 for Rome, which puts them to 56. I didn't try to get out quick enough. The Romans pushed a little too hard, and I think we see it. I'll finish up. You know, there's a question of why bother, but I think doing an extra turn isn't going to hurt anybody particularly, and I might get some pleasure out of routing the Carthaginians a little further. So Scipio opens things up by using his elite commander bonus, flinging forward a bunch of legionnaires and just destroying that in-column heavy stuff that was marching by. Just got caught there, and we already know the Carthaginians have lost this one. It's just a question of, you know, whether or not, I don't know, whether or not we want to see the route in place. Not a lot happening here. Romans continuing to push forward, sending lines where they can find them, and they've kind of been forming up to do this, to pursue, but not quite making it up in time to hit. We see the Carthaginians slammed into the Romans a little here and sent them reeling back. It's not going to matter. Over here we've got the Roman cav getting butchered some more by these Iberian lancers. But again, that's not where the game's being decided. The game's being decided already with that 98 points of tactical quality that the Carthaginians have lost. Apparently they can't try to hold that front line. That can't be the delaying force. That thing's worth more than what's required to break the army, so it had to withdraw. I thought it was I thought it was small enough to count as the delaying force. I should have counted it first. As it was, the Carthaginians probably should have just pulled back and let the Romans push as hard as they possibly could, because their army could not have hit as hard. And it's going to be pretty easy to get the Carthaginians off the board. So this is pretty clearly a case of me misplaying in terms of why the game is so easily lost by the Carthaginians. Alright, onward. Hanno's done a pretty good job of driving away some of those lead Roman units. Still, the game's not yet over. There's still this possibility that, say, all these rally attempts could succeed up here, that the Carthaginians could get their army off board. It's not going to happen, but, you know, my first impression was, wow, the Carthaginians are done at 2 points below. Well, 2 points below is still not over yet, and we're kind of seeing some hints, maybe the Romans have had to push a little harder. We'll see. What do I have left? I have, I think, just the big guys, the sixes, which puts me back on Scipio. Well, that's officially over here. Hasdrubal's action phase finally came around, and he managed to get a couple more of these off. That's another, 14, 28 points, puts him to 56. Hey. But one of those skirmishers didn't fail to rally, but ended up with 3 hits on it, which I've always taken as they rout again when that happens. It's a weird situation that can happen with these crappy units. And he ran off the board, and bang, game's over. I did one momentum at the base move, and then one momentum I started pulling the elephants out. But, you know, frankly, it doesn't make sense to try to do anything more here. One thing we see is Massinissa is able to pretty much dominate the situation with the cab. Saw this several times. The play order with Scipio. Now Scipio's elite, so he can fire off an action early before anyone else does. And I think he wants to do that in this game in particular because his activation number, he's only got a 6 for his, unlike Hannibal, who's got the big 7. And there were 2 Carthaginian leaders with 6s who tended to go after Scipio. So there was almost always a chance to trump Scipio. And that's something I'm not used to with, say, Pyrrhus or Hannibal. This is the first time an elite leader I've seen who's been, that I can remember, who's been easily able to lose his initiative bonus, his actions. Scipio would take one action, would roll, hey, I get my momentum, no question, I've got a good number. There were 2 leaders on the board who had the same good number, and this pretty good chance of trumping his momentum, taking it away from him. So he wasn't as active as what I'm used to seeing with other leaders. So it became much more important to get that elite leader bonus out of the way, because it was much less likely that Scipio would get 3 actions at the end of the turn. Interesting situation. Like I said, I think I misplayed the Carthaginians with the run command. They should have been pulling out of here and just getting away from the Roman army as fast as possible. Try to build up something up around here to defend themselves under the shelter of those archers, and with new, fresher troops, heavier stuff coming out to fight its way through. What I did, well, we can see how badly it worked. I just didn't count the points and didn't see how easily, how much it was just overrunning that line would win the thing. But here's the thing, overrunning the line isn't enough. You have to destroy the routing pieces, and that's not necessarily that easy. And I might not have realized the opportunities for that inherent in these Roman lines that I built. All right, up this one goes sometime. I've got this huge backlog of stuff. I'm still pushing Age of Renaissance up, and I've got like 4 other games waiting. I guess that's, trials of slow interwebs and a life alone. At least when it comes down to it, it's alone.